Hello and welcome. This is the first episode of the podcast. I don't know how long this series is going to be. It might be 4 episodes, it might be 6, and it might continue on from there. Basically, the premise of what I want to do right now is just talk about a bit of my process, but some things I found really helpful in building sites for clients. I've had the privilege of helping over, I think probably at this point it's maybe higher now, but I'd say somewhere around 500 clients on their Squarespace websites and building it out. And now our business is solely focused on SEO work. So with that, we're going to talk about how to become a Squarespace designer. We're going to talk about background. We're going to talk about landing your first client. We're going to talk about time savers, creating systems for yourself, getting comfortable in the client relationship, how to ask for budgets, how to ask for more money, know when boundaries are getting crossed, know how to cut clients when you need to. Today, most of our clients about $450 for our SEO work. Had a client about $650. I would say closer to $700 today. Throw a pity party, a little tantrum. No, literally didn't pay any mind to it. And I'll tell you, there's been a lot of times that I have gotten over stressed out about that. But in this case today, it's just one of those things of having clear set expectations and how I want to work, that I didn't give that client the power and was able to just literally, okay, take a refund. No complaints, no arguing, no trying to sort it, just take the refund and let's keep moving. More clients to work on, more things to focus on, and more people who have healthy expectations to work with. So with that, let's get into this. I literally don't have a name for this podcast, and I am just going to call it right now the name I have in my notes on Notion is, am I starting a podcast? Question mark. How to become a freelance Squarespace designer. Cool. So here is episode 1. Okay, so we are going to start with some of the most basic questions there are, which is just really clear and simple. Do web designers use Squarespace? Okay, so to talk about this question, there's a few ways to tackle this. What I'm going to focus on is this. Many people who come from a web design background will look at Squarespace and only see limitations or see something they think is design-wise is too soft or not, the grade of it is too low to even begin with. Now, that's a fair analysis on one handle. If you're trying to design a very custom site or have certain looks and feels and animations and textures and site styles and all of that, and you're a web designer, well, there are a lot of tools and a lot of ways to build that out on your own. But on the other side of that, and this is really interesting because I'm actually very adamant about this. On the other side of that, let's take a step back. When you, as a kid, start to learn how to speak, you don't learn how to read first. You learn how to speak. And as you get better at speaking, you start to put words together. Saying a few words, you start getting better at sentences. And as you get better at sentences, you get better at paragraphs and ideas. And it just continues to flow and flow from there. And then you begin to learn how to read. Now you could say that's the normal process of a child. It's the level of adaptation that we have and all this stuff, whatever. But in actuality, there's actually a lot of power in that system. There's a lot of power in that system because you're training your mind in a way, and I don't have the exact reference right now, but you're training your mind in a way that allows it to take things at certain stride. So getting a good grip on words and then going to reading has its own power as well. And this is where Squarespace is a great starting point. I never planned on being a web designer. I'm the last guy who would ever have thought, I'm going to go to a code academy. That's not where I started. But when I was working in corporate America, or actually I started with a nonprofit, when I tried to build that first website, I just need to get something up. And that process of going from, I just want that there and that there, allowed me to learn all the hard pieces behind it with the code that help it to stand as I wanted it, right? And make it the way I wanted it. So, do web designers use Squarespace? Many can, and many, I think, should. The best part about Squarespace to me, in this case, with kind of this frame of mind in this context, is this. Squarespace is built for the end user. So there's no selling point on that side of it for the client. Yes, they may want to talk about features and other things. let's not get into that right yet. The usability of Squarespace is so easy. Double click it, edit the text, press save. It's refresh, done. Front end editor. So as you make the change, you see it happen. You'll see how it'll look. You'll see how it'll feel. And this is the best part. You design a beautiful website, you pass it to the client, and then you train them to manage it in the process. This is something that you can't get with all web platforms. You could get it with a lot more today, but you can't get it with all web platforms. So, do web designers use Squarespace? There are many out there. And just like WordPress was built in some ways to be simple, that the average user can just go in there and build their site. But Squarespace has a whole market. And if you don't believe me, well, I could show you the payments, but there are so many different people willing and ready to pay for you to build their website for them. Whether it's $500, $1,500, or $15,000, there are a lot of people out there who are willing and ready to pay for sites on Squarespace. Next question. Do you need a degree? Kind of going back to my point about learning how to speak before learning how to write, to read or learning how to write sentences. It's nice to get a good feel. And this is why Squarespace works out so well. And I'm not an advocate for this. Like, there might be someone who ends up hearing this and saying, no, you have to know how to code to begin. It'll be so helpful. But the great part here is if you could start, and you could start quickly, and you could get clients, and you could help people, and you already visit a lot of websites, and maybe you're a millennial or generation younger than millennials, possibly you already have a skill set that an older generation doesn't have, or the older generation doesn't have the time to try to figure out. This is a big one too. One of my first clients was a huge company, and they could have easily paid $50K for a website. And then the owners were just building it themselves. But they got so busy that they want to hire someone to do it. So somehow they found me, and we'll talk about that process of how they found me. They found me, they sent me a message, and within, I think it was 24 hours, within that first 12 hours of our contact, they had sent me a deposit for $650. I think we decided on the project to be $1,300, something like that. They sent me the deposit. It was a Friday night. This is my third project I landed. I was feeling so good. That was such an amazing process. But at the time, if we go back to that, I could tell you in that moment, I did not know how to code. I'm skipping around a little bit, but let me put this all together. Did not know how to code. Anyway, many clients, the reason they came to me is because they were just busy. They literally were just busy. They wanted to do it themselves. They were coming from that vantage point, right? Not like, oh, let's do a $50K website. No, let's just do it for cheap. They came from the vantage point of, hey, we would usually do this for ourselves, but we don't have the time and energy. We want to move from WordPress to Squarespace, and we want to hire someone to do it. So they did that. They brought me on, and we built the site. So do you need a degree? No, you can begin today. For website design, the main thing I recommend, truly the main thing I recommend for website design is an understanding to begin. A very basic understanding. And I'll even say this, I didn't even understand this. So this is maybe me giving you advice that could be helpful for you to start, not so much like a necessity. I literally started not understanding this. I remember being on the phone with a friend, and he's like, yeah, so CSS is the way you decorate the inside of the house. And there's a phrase for this, or there's a saying for this, where you're HTML is the way you build the house, right? The walls and stuff. CSS is how you customize it, how it looks and feels. And JavaScript is the foundation of the house. Something like this. I don't know. I don't even remember. But at the time, that was my level of understanding of code. I literally did not have any more understanding than that when I was landing my first clients in the process. So do you need a degree? No. But what would be helpful? And this kind of leads us into the next question, which is, do you need to know how to code? But do you need a degree? I would say the main thing would be, hey, if you could learn and understand how CSS, HTML, and JavaScript work together, that'd be really good. Maybe one day we could do a little episode of this. But if you can understand how those work together, that is awesome. From there, if you also have a sense of how to get Squarespace resources, there are so many resources out there right now. Compared to 3 years ago, there were very few. Right now, there are so many resources. that you can go find and get what you're looking for. Okay, do you need to know how to code? I will go back last time on this example. If you could learn how to design a website, and let me take a step back. Design is probably the biggest part of the process. You'll need tons of inspiration to really get your designs set right. When I first started, the first website I built for a client that had called me and sent me a message, and we landed a project. I think it was like $1,800. That was mind blowing at the time. Like I literally was like, I just got $1,800 extra dollars I did not have. When that first client came to me, the site we built, hideous. It is like respect. Like I will rebuild his site for him if he ever contacts me. Like literally I'll do it for free. It was hideous. We went back and forth and we got a site and he liked it and it went in the right direction. However, looking back at it now with the experience I have now, there's a lot of stuff I did there that I would not do again. And so my bigger kind of conversation piece there is if you find some resources for that, one main resource I recommend, if you're beginning, you might hate this because it's so custom, but it's just a great, for me, I like really, really big inspiration to start from. So one of the resources I go to is a website called landbook.com, land-book.com. And that is a fabulous resource because it just pulls some of the best websites from around the world. A lot of the functions and features on those sites are not possible in Squarespace without heavy code. And so just bear that in mind. But you're seeing designers at their best, like 30, 50, 80, 150K websites being built that are just gorgeous and so simple and like clean and straight to the point. It's just a really good spot for inspiration. But from there, if you could find other Squarespace websites that have been built that are really clean and nice, you can then use that to your advantage to figure out design. Design is probably the hardest part. It's the reason our business currently, and this is probably a big point. The reason our business right now, we do not do design services because there's no one on our team at the moment who could handle the design requirements. I can, but I'm trying to free up more of my time and build other functions of the business that operate, that I own, that don't run, more that I own than things that run me. So that's why that is shaped the way it's shaped right now. So this next question, do you need to know how to code? No, but it is really good to know what resources are out there. And learning bits of code, especially CSS, if you have an analytical mind, will be really straightforward and simple. So something like Ghost Plugins, ghostplugins.com, that's a great resource. I think at this moment right now, they have over 300 free plugins. They also have templates you could start with. And they have packages where you could buy templates and get like 3 a month for a really affordable price. I'd highly, 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 highly recommend stuff like that to start out. Clients will love it because you're getting a starter look and feel. And it also helps you build the confidence to do that client relationship. The client relationship is an important part of all of this and how you manage that. In my opinion, the best way to manage that is to own it, not to let it pass by and just kind of be like, hey, I kind of put this together, and you show it to them. No, you go to them. Hey, so this is what we've created. This is why, and this is what I'm missing, or this is what I need you to do next. There's a lot of confidence there, and it also gives them, especially when you come with the design and the feel and the look, they come back with being in like the seat of like, how to say it? They take their role and you take your role. You don't want them to become the designer. They'll give you advice or tips or what they think is better for them specifically. And honestly, at those moments, for the most part, I go with the flow on that because it's their site. They're gonna own it at the end, and they're paying me to build it for them. I don't fuss too much about that. I'm not a designer in that sense. So if you're getting into this and you're this far into it and you're like, no, but I am the designer. I love people who are really good at design, and I love great design. However, at the end of the day, client is paying for their website. And so whatever that looks like for them is their choice. So we try to follow that as much as possible. Biggest selling point, and I mentioned this before, is it's simple to manage for the client. You could record, let's say, 4 20-minute videos and walk through how to set up pages, how to adjust text, how to adjust images, how to set up galleries, how to set up blog posts, events, products. set up those videos. They could be coupled together, 3 or 4 videos, and literally send it to all your clients. You could do a custom training with every client. That's how I started. I always told a client I'd be on the phone with them and I'd say, yeah, so we are definitely like, the best part of this whole process is that at the end, I'm going to walk through a training on your specific website, and I'm going to teach you how to adjust and make edits to your site and the pages that you have. And that gives them so much confidence. Oh, and by the way, we're going to record it so you can have it forever. That kind of language and those types of thoughts help support, well, what happens after the site? And it gives the client this peace of mind that you know what you're doing, because they have even thought, sometimes they haven't even gotten there yet. They haven't even started to consider it. And a resource like Loom to record training videos and just send it to the client is great. You could even just use QuickTime, record it, use WeTransfer.com, forward it to the client, and you're good to go. Finally, I kind of want to just talk through in this video at this time, I want to talk through my experience as a Squarespace developer. And so I don't want to bore you with all the details, and if people end up having questions, I may do this again or talk about this again. But basically, this is my story. I started out, I was working in corporate America. I left corporate America. I got one freelance job that was an ongoing freelance job running Google ad campaigns. Absolutely loved it. Actually, let me take one step back. Okay, so it was about 2013. I had just visited a country in Southeast Asia called Myanmar. And when I had gone to Myanmar, I went there on a missionary trip where we were able to go and love on orphans and just be with them. And we went for Christmas and we were able to be there with them, fell in love with the kids. It was a life-changing experience. I absolutely loved it. When I came back, I was curious of how I could help out. And I had heard that they had started a sponsorship program, but it wasn't really running. And my first instinct was, we need to build a website for them. So I used this platform. It was a hideous platform. I don't even remember the name. And it was so funny that I even used them and that they even helped me, because it was like for campaigns. It was like if you were going to become a local mayor and you were running a campaign, it was a website that would help you do that. I don't even know why we decided to use them as a platform. Anyway, as we were going through the process, I built that site. It was a headache. I didn't know how to code it all. There were sections and things that weren't working. The way to sponsor a child, you couldn't actually do it online. You had to submit a form to request to do it, and then we would send you an email with a follow-up of how to do it. It was a mess, a complete mess. And then a few years later, something came out on Squarespace, or like 2 years later, something came out on Squarespace that I was not aware about. And something came out that was a feature that I needed that wasn't there before. And at this point, I literally don't remember what that feature was, but there was some type of feature that I thought, oh, if I just had this would be so beneficial. And so we got it, and I saw the feature. I went through the process. I said, okay, let's move this site to Squarespace. We did all the hard work, uploaded all the kids' profiles. We were able to host it on Squarespace. It was so good once it got up on Squarespace. It was beautiful. It was a really nice process, but I had to build the whole site on Squarespace, and I had never done that before. And so I learned all these ins and outs, how to adjust text, had no idea about H1, H2, H3, had no idea about design, had no idea of how parallax works, had no idea about how to adjust things so in my head so I know they look good on desktop and mobile, how blocks work, none of that. So there was a huge learning curve of just going through the process. But this is something I'm going to talk about over and over and over again. One of the ways I've done, and this is like my story, so I understand if this isn't relevant for someone else, but one of the main things that was so beneficial to me is that I really always tried to think about, there were some aggravating clients to work with, but I always tried to think about the process in terms of, okay, so client pays me $2,000, but truly they should be paying me about $35,000 or $4,000 for the size of the website they want. I would take that L, I would take that loss and build out the site as needed, right? And there's a boundary here to be careful about, so don't quote me on this for any project, but you have to kind of do this for yourself. I built that site knowing, hey, I've never landed a 4K project before. So if I build this site, I'll have this as a reference point to use for my next client when they come and they say, how much do you charge? Or if I ask them, if they ask and they say, oh, our budget's around 3 to 4K, I'll say, great. This website's going to be $39.50 because you just offered, and we'll do a job at $4,000 for you. At the same time, I'd be able to show them that work. So it's kind of been my whole story that way. It's how I got interviewed by Squarespace. It's how I've now helped so many clients. It's always been to start with taking that step to do more work than what was required, so then I could use that for the next client. And there's a certain point where that plateaus, but if you think about it, I did that website for free, that first website. The next website, which we'll get into that part of the story now, I did it on a job where they needed a website, and so I was basically paid to build the website within the company. That was an awesome experience. And then from there is when the freelance world really started. So I kind of like fast forwarded. I'm going to go back and walk through those pieces. But just to give you a clear idea of everything on the table, those are the different pieces that navigate that I think are really, really valuable in this process of just some things to consider, like as you take steps further down the road. So now, okay, let's talk about this. Okay, back to the story. So I built that orphan care website. It was about a year or 2 years after I built the first one. So call it like 2014 or so. I had just graduated college, and now I was looking for work. I had a job, left that job, got fired from that job. Interesting story. Then I started working full-time at a company, and I was part of the marketing team. It was really cool. On that team, we needed a website built for we were in a global brand for one of the countries that we were marketing in. And so I said, hey, why don't we use Squarespace? I knew the tool. I knew we could build on it quickly, and I knew we could adjust on it quickly. So I said, let's build the site on Squarespace. So I think it took me about 20 to 40 hours to build that site, but it was the best thing because I literally was getting paid to build the site because it was just part of working hours. And so I was getting paid to learn how to build the site, even though I had only done it once before. That site actually looked really good. I was really impressed with how it came out because I also had a lot of good feedback working with me on the team that I was working on at the time. It worked out really well. And that project finished, good to go. So around 2016, I believe it was, about 2015, 2016, I ended up leaving that corporate job about 18 months after getting hired there. When I left that corporate job, I found myself working freelance. I kind of mentioned it earlier. I started working freelance. I had one ongoing client that I was running Google ad campaigns for. And so I was learning a lot about Google ad campaigns. I had learned it in the marketing job I just had. So I was doing a lot of campaigns. And as I was doing all those campaigns, I was getting a lot of exposure to how Google works. Now, fast forward 8 months, I left the corporate job in August, and then in about February or March, I was working with a friend who was really good at the freelance game. And he said to me, two friends actually, one of them said to me, they said, hey dude, why don't you run Google Ads for yourself? So if someone types in Squarespace website designer, you show up. And I was like, what? No, I don't want to pay for ads. Who's going to search that and then like click on my website and try to find me? So reluctantly, I made a landing page. I put down my pricing. I think my pricing was like $950, $1,250, and $1,500. $1,500 sounded ridiculous. 2 days later, my first client messaged me. I remember I woke up that day and went to my computer and looked at it, and I got a message on my email, I got a message on LinkedIn, and the client had messaged me. And I think they even tried to call me at one point. I don't remember. Anyway, I was so ecstatic. I called my mentor friend and I said, hey dude, what the heck is going on? How do I do this call? I have no idea even what to talk about on this call. Like, how do I do a sales call? And so he walked me through it. He's just like, yeah, talk about this. Make sure you have a clear process. Okay, cool. So I said, yeah, the process is 4 steps. First, we do this, 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 this. I'd never done it before. And then so he also said, like, I don't even know how this came up. When I was talking with my friend, he said something like, if you have an upsell, like, use it or do it, like a logo or something. He's like, charge like $250 for a logo and you could design a logo. And I was like, whoa, wild. Okay, let me try it. So I get on the phone. It's a shaky call, but it works. It's working. And at a certain point, I say, hey, do you need a logo? He's like, yeah, a logo would be nice. And I'm like, yeah, the logo is $250. He's like, okay, cool, let's do it. And I'd like to do your biggest package 3. What? I literally just made $1,800 and the conversation was 25 minutes max? It was like 20 minutes. To me, that was ridiculous. I couldn't even believe it. And it was really beautiful at the time because it was a design service. At the time, I was paying off a lot of debt too. So having that stable income before the ongoing work covered all my bills. That money, all of it was going to go to pay off debt. And so I knew that was a big number to pay off debt. I had about 20K of debt. So that was almost 10% of my debt was about to get paid off in that moment with that client. And I literally tripped out. $1,800 within a 20-minute call. That was the turning point for me. That was the special moment that really redefined things. And slowly but surely, every other week or so, and even quicker at a certain point, I'd land a new client and I'd land another client and I'd land another client. It was such a cool process to go through. And we'll talk more about all these details of like what that looks like in these other episodes. But I do just want to start with, do web designers use Squarespace? I don't know. They can. Can you start with Squarespace and become a web designer? Yes, you can. I don't know why there's like a shame around it. There needs to not be any shame around it. Do you need a degree or do you need to know how to code? No. Just learn how to really add value. And if you're good with digital tools, that in itself is a plus. That's a huge plus to begin with if you're getting into this world. So I ended that call with the client and I ended the call and I told them on the call, I'm going to send you a starter kit, which is all the questions of what I need for us to begin the website. I sent him that starter. I literally got off the phone. I made the starter kit, literally a Word document, added a few questions. I'm like, I don't know, what should I say? Brand color. Okay, cool. Tell me brand logo. What do you want for your logo? Content for your website. What content do you want for your site? Built it out. Word document, sent it to him and sent him an invoice. And before you know it, I got the deposit, 50% in my bank account. I was so excited. And this is something I think anyone can do if they want to go for it. Do you need to run Google Ads? Do you need to have all these systems in place? No, I really recommend you could start and you could start exactly where you are. So with that is the first episode. I am so thankful you are here. Please continue to follow along. What I would say, the best way to stay connected with me is through our website. So if you go to spacebaragency.com and you sign up for the newsletter, that is the best way to stay connected on anything that we're doing as a company, whether it be these podcasts, whether it be work on SEO, talking about design services, releasing any of our courses, any of that stuff. The best place to find it is to go to spacebaragency.com. You could go to spacebaragency.com/newsletter or just go to spacebaragency.com and you'll see the newsletter somewhere on the site. With that, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening, however you are tuning into this. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.